Well, I'm not sure what happened there. I touched nothing, and suddenly we popped up on screen. So, hello everybody. Welcome to Full Course Yells. It's been a couple of weeks since we've done this, so there's some bugs in the system somewhere. Hopefully, not as bad as last time around. Whatever happened last time, I've spoken to the good people at Streamyard, and they have no idea either what went on. But anyway, we've hopefully we'll set everything sorted out for this week. But as you saw, we had a sneak preview of the crew joining us so far this week. We got Pete, we've got Stuart, we've got Mark Jones, and we've got Richard Outram joining us this week on the program. G'day guys, how are we?
I'm all right. How are you?
Stuart is eating once again.
Good evening.
Oh, fantastic. I've had 2 race weekends, I suppose 4 race weekends in a row up here. So, yes, we're enjoying life.
Tell us about Leybourne. Tell us that Leybourne, it looked really fun. It looked like something that we should put on the bucket list.
Oh, well, I always think it's fun. I think even the time that we had a small cyclone come through, that it was still fun. But yeah, no, it was a really good weekend at Leybourne, and we had over 220 cars, ranging from a 98-year-old Austin 7 to some fairly new BMWs, and lots and lots of fun. Dean Amos was just once again a little bit too good for everybody else, and he was our FTD of the weekend. But we had some fantastic sprints racing. We had classes going all the way down to the very last run of the weekend, and just that thing that historic motorsport. Well, it's we can't use the actual Grand Prix venue because the old Leybourne bomber strip from the 1940s was subdivided between 3 farms, and it's all in private ownership. And so we have a 1 kilometer course that weaves in and out of the very small center of Leybourne, and there's about maybe less than a dozen streets in the entire internal part of Leybourne itself, and we use more than half of them for the course.
And they get a good crowd there, I believe. I believe it's a pretty good crowd.
15,000 for the weekend.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah,
the
original event had.
Community.
Oh well, yes, very much so. I mean, it's one of the big events for the. Well, it is kind of the biggest event of the year for Leybourne, and there's a bunch of very enthusiastic supporters. The Brisbane Bronco legend Shane Webke grew up in Leybourne, and he's one of the people who's very enthusiastically supports the event, and invested personally in it as well. He rebuilt the Royal Hotel in Leybourne, and just lovely people having fun. No sheep stations on offer, but there's just lots and lots of. I just keep going back to the same things that I just had fun, and everyone else seemed to.
Yeah, it sounds like something. So, especially at this time of the year for us down south, I mean, it would be a nice break weather-wise. As I was saying, I'm heading up north tomorrow, and the weather for halfway north, and the weather forecast there is awful. But anyway, talking about weather and all the rest of it, the weekend at Zandvoort, that's a bizarre little circuit now with all the banking and the. All that, it looks fantastic, but once again, it didn't matter what the weather threw at him. It didn't matter where he, what the pit stop strategy was. Max Verstappen absolutely dominated.
You missed something there, Brett.
Which is what?
It also doesn't matter how many people he nerfs off in one of the corners, and we don't get replays of it.
Well, yes, he was. Well, you can imagine.
I think it's turn 3 is the first of the steeply banked one, and one of his first passes of the race, straight up into somebody else.
Yeah, but I mean that goes right through the field, and I mean it's interesting that in terms of him
Yeah,
not being shown, you would
yeah.
say that you would say that in the past it would be sort of you could say okay, well the local media wasn't keen on showing, but the local media don't have anything to do with the coverage now. I mean it all comes out of it all comes out of Formula One, and basically everything's cut together in Dubai, so or somewhere, so the UAE. It's Yes, so we've got yes, Jeremy saying yes. Renee Gracie, OnlyFans subscribers. Yes, good evening to all of them.
No, sorry. I own a classic car. I can't afford that sort of subscription.
I have no idea how much that sort of subscription costs, and because I mean, why would you bother when there's so much of it available for free? Yes, you and me both, Mark. Yeah, still having trouble coming to terms with Wednesday nights. Apparently it's a full moon tonight, so g'day, Paul Van der Acker. It's
A blue moon, actually.
a blue moon. Well, it
Blue
only
moon.
happens once in
Yeah.
a blue
And a
moon.
blue
so there you
moon.
go.
Yeah, there you go.
I
I
was
might go
clean
remove
shaven
one of
an
the
hour
cameras
ago.
and see if I can get a shot of it.
Yes, you caught me standing alone.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's talk about the weekend and the Dutch Grand Prix. Is Max ruining it for everybody? I mean, it doesn't look like it. I mean, judging by the crowd that was there and the crowd that have already sort of pretty much sold out all the allocation of Australian Formula One tickets. Pete, did you get your tickets? You're muted, Pete.
Yes and no. I don't know yet. Yes, maybe.
Maybe so.
Yeah.
So how have they changed the thing? I mean, because you've been going for years, and I don't think
Yeah.
have you actually missed one since it's come to Melbourne?
No, the only one I missed was the one everybody missed.
Yeah,
And pre-COVID, they used to have this program called the Advantage program,
yeah,
and they used to give people advance warning that the tickets would go on sale, and it would be almost a month apart from when the rest of the tickets went on sale. But now they give you a priority number, and you sort of have to go online, and the priority number doesn't guarantee you a ticket. It just guarantees a place in the queue to get the ticket. Um, yeah, and so and this sort of now they do that. You have to register, and last year you had to pay to get that advantage. This year they didn't do that. But you had to register, and it was like the day before was. When did the tickets go on sale for everybody? Yesterday, so it was Monday when the tickets went on for pre-sale. Yeah.
There's been a lot of people like obviously really angry about it, but the point is, I can understand people are really angry. The good side of it is it shows the incredible demand
Yeah.
for tickets in terms of like we know for next year that it's virtually going to be a sellout and another record crowd again. They've already announced another couple of grandstands, and I wouldn't surprise me if they put more in between now and the event. So it's getting to the stage. I mean, it's just record crowd after record crowd. Surely that's a good thing for the sport. I know it's annoying for the people who miss out, but to sell out that quickly. It shows that there's an awful lot of people out in the real world out there who really want to see this thing.
Yeah, yeah. And
Gone
No,
are
getting
the
but
back to
days where
getting back to
question
the
is, Brett.
How's
getting
it,
back
Pete?
Actually, I'll ask it. Go,
getting
Pete.
back to the original question. I don't think Max has ruined it for everybody because we have periods of domination. We've had Lewis Hamilton, and we've had Alain Prost, we've had Ayrton Senna. So I don't think he's ruined it for everybody. And there's still, with the exception of Belgium, there's still excitement with the rest of them.
Yeah, I mean, if you take Max out of the equation, the rest of the racing is pretty good and pretty unpredictable. I mean, sort of we had Fernando Alonso came back into contention over the weekend. Alex Albon has been doing a really good job, and it's going to be interesting to see him in action this week at Monza, because we know that Williams is blindingly fast in a straight line, so he could be even further up the grid than he has been for the past few races. So that'll be good. And McLaren had a bad weekend, but they certainly showed some improvement in the past. Mercedes had a bad weekend, but you would expect they would come back. And Ferrari basically, they suddenly find, they suddenly find somehow they seem to become magically competitive.
Yes.
Over the weekend, Jeremy.
They'll install the V12s into the car for the next week.
Well, they're paying tribute with their livery to their win at Le Mans. Perhaps they'll whack one of the Le Mans hypercar engines in there as well and get there. But Jeremy saying Liam Lawson made his weekend. It was considering the situation. That he was sort of thrown into at the last minute, and with the conditions and all that, I think he acquitted himself really well.
Yeah.
Wasn't the easiest of races to make your debut in?
No.
Really tough.
No, I think that Oscar Piastri said he couldn't have chosen really couldn't have chosen a worse weekend to have made his debut. He said it was absolutely chaotic there. He said with all the changeable conditions and everything, and with that track, it was not the easiest thing to get used to.
Had the opposite experience to SVG in Chicago.
Yes, very much.
Yes.
Yep.
Very much so. I mean, that was just absolutely tailor-made for him. And that's why it wasn't that much of a surprise when he did so well and won. It wasn't like, oh my God, no one expected that. I think everybody here sort of looked at it and went, well, they've never actually done any street circuits before, and Shane's pretty good at them. He's got lots of experience.
Yeah, I did see a comparison during the week prior to the Dutch Grand Prix. That it compared the points at the same situation this year to last year, and Red Bull and Verstappen in particular, but Red Bull have sucked the points out of everybody's championship this year. The only team that hasn't gone backwards compared to this time last year, apart from Red Bull, is Aston Martin.
Yeah.
Everyone else has, are in a worse position than they were 12 months ago.
Yeah, they're clearly in a class of their own, and when you consider that Sergio hasn't been, it's not a case of if Max wins, Sergio is guaranteed to be second or to take over. Sergio has had some good performances and he has won a race, but at the same time, he's had a few problems.
And he got dudded. He did get dudded in Zandvoort because they messed up a pit stop. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that was pretty obvious that what they were doing is it's like they wanted to give the once again they were very clear that they give the advantage, but he'd have to be used to that now. I mean, surely he's smart enough to understand. Checo, you are number two. You are the number two driver. To forget about this, we've got two number ones. No, you are the number two driver. So, and you'd better get used to that.
It's bringing back memories of Rubens Barrichello.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, Rubens,
he was driver 1A.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, and there's been a few of them. And Rubens was very famous. With Eddie Irvine, there were a couple of them who just basically, just said, well, okay, that is my role. That's, I'm racing in Formula One for for the very top team, and my role is basically to be the number two. I'm the second banana. And you need that. I mean, in a team, you need someone who can be behind, who can play the strategy game, who can perhaps, hold out and give some problems to give the number one driver's main competitors. Just make it a bit hard to get past at times or something like that. So, I think that Rubens and others have made a very good career for themselves as dedicated number two drivers, and it's not not everyone can win. And it's probably you probably get well paid for it. And I know that Rubens is very, very well respected in the industry because of that. He had a job to do and he did a really good job, and he didn't whinge and moan and complain, and he just got on with it and said, I've got a great job. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah.
and he got and after his era at McLaren, he then got his own. He got a second chance to be a star again with the very brief resurgence of, well, not resurgence, emergence of the Braun Grand Prix team, the team formerly known as Honda, and yeah, he was, and he's now, I think he is still our longest most Grand Prix starts in Formula One
think so.
history. I think he still holds that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I'm
think
not
so.
sure that he's a lovely guy. I mean, we interviewed him at Sandown, when he was racing the S5000, and he was terrific to everybody over the weekend. He didn't hide himself away. It wasn't a case of he was just in the pits in the garages with everybody else, and people were just wandering through, and he was having photos taken and signing autographs and chatting away to people, having photos taken with the kids. He was very relaxed, and he really enjoyed his S5000 experience. Although, as I've mentioned before, quite tellingly, when I suggested that his son might come out and join him for a race, it was like, oh no, they're fun for me, but for my son, no.
Just going back to the tickets thing that Box wrote up and whatever. Does anyone know what the prices are for the tickets? And
Pete,
For
would they
where
sell
I
out
am,
hang
for
on,
where I
would
might
they
be,
sell out faster than the tickets for Taylor Swift's tour?
I don't know about that. I
Because
don't
those
know.
things can be up and over $1,000 a ticket.
I think there were upwards of tickets for $600, but I know where I may be, it's $455
Yep.
that I will pay, and that's down from what I paid originally when I first started going. I used to pay 500 and something when I first
that's
started going,
interesting.
but I think that's
Mhm.
because they've put the accessible stand further back from the turn. So I was right on the first turn again before COVID. Then they shifted it further back from the turn. So
Yeah, because they've had to increase the number of seats.
yeah.
So, but turn one's a still pretty good place to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
Oh,
thinking the
it's
closest
glorious.
I've been to actually watching from a grandstand is the roof of 380 St Kilda Road.
Yeah, I certainly haven't done
It was a
the
great view.
grandstand. I mean, I've done the I've done the general admission a couple of times. I did it like on the Friday this year, but I certainly haven't done the grandstand. I suppose if it's it's one of those once a year things. And you just say, and like it is for you, Pete. I mean,
Yeah.
it's your, and the same with Jamie, their mate Jamie Cock and a few others. It's their annual, their annual leave. It's the big holiday. It's the big investment. Like Jamie takes the week off, and it's like going on a cruise almost. It's like this is I'm just so you'd want to spend to get the best experience.
Yeah.
And if you're going to be there for the 4 days, you're probably going to want somewhere, comfortable to sit down as well. It's a bit like when going, the two occasions I've done Le Mans in general admission. If I ever had the opportunity to go back again and I didn't have media accreditation, I would. I don't think I'd go back there now unless I could afford to get a grandstand seat as well, because it was just. Yeah, that's
Yeah, we
interesting.
get used to the media admission, don't we?
Yes, it does. It's very frustrating when you don't get it. 3AW reporting surge pricing as they increase the number available. If that's the case, then that's wrong.
Yeah.
That's price gouging.
Yeah.
But I can tell you can get a pretty good view of the track marshalling, because I did it for a number of years, and that was a lot of fun.
I remember seeing you once.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, it was
Oh,
before
you've got
I
a
knew
good
you.
memory.
It was before I knew you, but I remember seeing you once. Yeah.
Yeah, I did turn 13, 14, 15, 16, 1 and 2.
Yeah, it would be when you did 1 and 2
Yeah,
that I remember seeing you.
Yes. Still
Yeah, I
got
mean
the
that's very much the case for every meeting, isn't it? I mean, if you're really keen, and you want to get the best seat in that, well, you're not. Unfortunately, it's not a seat. I mean, because most of the time you're standing up and you're working, and they're bloody long, hard days. But at the same time, in terms of getting access and getting close, you do have the best seat in the house because you're not going to get. There's not going to be a single spectator, not even the most privileged of the VIPs sitting in the corporate boxes are going to get sort of the access to the action that you're going to get if you're a flaggy, if you're involved in any of the volunteer positions at a major motor race meeting, whether it's the Grand Prix or Bathurst or Phillip Island or Sandown 500. And I know they were still looking for Sandown 500 marshals a couple of days ago or a few days ago, so they were still after people there. They're always looking for people for events. So if you're out there and you're sort of you're young and you're fit and you're very keen and you want to get together with a whole bunch of like-minded people and head away for weekends and just basically live the motor racing adventure, it's a good thing to do. But as I've said before, I mean, I think they could. I still think they could be treated a hell of a lot better.
Yeah.
And yeah, they're priceless, really. I've I'm sorry. Yeah, no, I've always enjoyed my time with the various flaggies and fireys and recoveries, and they always have a great time with them trackside. They just tend to be really, really good people.
Well, they're there for all the right reasons. They're there for the sport. They're not there.
Yeah.
They're not there to be seen. They're not there because they're paid to be there. They're paid there because they love the sport and they're enthusiastic about it. And you sit there. I used to get sort of criticised by some of the guys in the media centre and all that. It's like, you're always down talking to the bloody flaggy idiots and the bloody the photographers and all the shit. It's like, yeah, I'd much rather be talking to people who actually were there because they loved the sport and they were passionate about it and they knew what the hell was going on, rather than the fact that someone gave them $450, $500 a day to be there.
There's almost nobody who knows the track better than the officials and what the hell's going on.
Yeah, Paul's saying that even Formula One's short of marshal numbers each year, and it is becoming a problem. We've got, like, in a couple of weeks' time for the Sandown 500 weekend, we've got the Sandown 500, but the same weekend we've got the Winton 300 happening up the Hume Highway. Now I imagine that perhaps some of the people further up north, a lot of the flaggies and marshals who would normally work up at who are local to the Winton area, I imagine they'll stay at Winton, and vice versa. So Winton will probably be doing it tough. Although I suppose the advantage at Winton is they've got the light system and all the rest of it, so they can probably get away with quite a few less than Sandown's going to need.
Yeah, well, certainly here in Queensland, they've been looking towards lighting systems and automation for quite some time.
By the way, in case anybody was wondering,
yeah. I just wonder what Jeremy's fascination is with that particular OnlyFans. You're not advertising it at all, Jeremy?
Perhaps he's on it. Perhaps Jeremy's sort of with Renee's New Zealand agent or something. I don't know. Why not get 10% of? Oh, I don't know. I don't want to even go there. You should be worried about wondering what slice you'd be getting.
10% would be a tip, wouldn't it?
Who's getting whose tip?
Yeah. Anyway, so that's coming up. So anything at all about the weekend? Anything about the Grand Prix? I mean, I only watched the race itself. I didn't see much. Daniel Ricciardo, of course, is out with a broken hand. I mean, he just to say he can't take a break. He can take a break. He's taken one on his hand because he. Did you see the incident at all, Pete? I haven't seen any footage of it.
Yeah, it seemed that there was quite a while between when Oscar hit the wall and when Daniel was approaching, and it did look initially like, because I only saw a replay, it did initially look like the flag was green, but then they showed it again, and it was actually a yellow flag. So I don't know what happened. It just
I,
seemed. It
well,
seemed. Yeah. Sorry. Go.
yeah, I was thinking that it looked like Ricardo was high on the corner, and once he was like the opportunity to move from the part of the track that he was to get underneath Piastri's car, which was side on to the circuit, of course,
Yeah.
was that he didn't have the opportunity to duck back on the inside. He was sort of trapped in
Yeah.
the situation, like in the famous Dick Johnson and his rock. He's
Yeah.
presented with a truck, a rock, and a wall. You've got to hit something.
Yeah, and I think that Oscar was very grateful later. He said, like he said, it would have been a really
yeah.
Would have
bad,
been a nasty
really
accident.
bad accident.
Yeah.
So
The
Yes,
onboard from
thanks,
Daniel's
Daniel, for
car
taking
is
one.
surprising. It would have been sort of like was it Zanardi exiting the pits at Indy?
Yeah.
yeah,
Two cars. Yeah, it would have been that nasty.
yeah. I mean, any T-bone situation is always bad. So thankfully that was avoided, and Oscar was fit to fight another day. But obviously, as Daniel said, he just didn't have the opportunity. Just didn't quite get his hand off the steering wheel quite in time, and it's obviously it's broken. And now they're saying he's going to be back for the Singapore Grand Prix, so we'll see that. But I mean, that obviously gives Liam a couple of races straight through, and I think he'll be a lot happier at Monza than he was at Zandvoort. I think he'll find that very well. And it's interesting because, as a lot of people have said, well, he did better than Sonada did
Yeah. Yes.
on the weekend. If he does it again,
Yeah.
and if he comes into his second race, with having had more time to actually prepare and more time to do some research and to get his head in the right place, and if he goes back and basically does the same thing again, you'd have to say that whatever pressure Honda is putting on them to keep a Japanese driver there, you'd have to be saying, we really don't want to lose this guy. This Lawson kid is pretty bloody good.
Yeah. And they want to. I think Red Bull does want to hang on to Daniel. So, and my theory is that both Sergio Perez's contract and Helmut Marko's contract comes up at the end of 2024. So, if they can find a way of hanging on to Daniel, and for that period, because Daniel, Helmut is not really a fan of. He appreciates that Daniel, I think, is a better driver, a good driver, but he's not really a fan of Australian drivers. So
He's not really a fan of any driver that's not Germanic.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's
couldn't
what I'm
agree
getting
more.
at.
But he does seem to have a special. He does seem to have a special, place in his loathing heart for Australians. I mean, as we've said before, talk to Craig Lowndes about his experience with him in the Formula 3000 days, and also, as I've said before, we had one of our crew members on the show who actually ended up working at Red Bull, and he had some stories when Mark Webber was there about sort of the sorts of things that Marko was saying, and he doesn't like the whole the easygoing nature and the always having a joke and all the rest of it. This is serious. It is you must respect what you are doing. Though not smiling. That's what he used to say to Craig Lowndes. It's like, why you always you lose and you have a smile on your face. Get your smile off your face. So. As Paul is saying, Doc isn't here to talk about, but Dan's injury common amongst bike racers, but bike racers are a different breed.
Yeah.
I mean, they can be, they're like the black Monty Python's Black Knight. I mean, he's but a flesh wound.
And
Yes.
Lance Stroll had a similar injury at the start of the year, and he came back fairly quickly with it.
Well, hopefully Dan will
And it's
get
the same.
back.
And it's
Did
apparently
Lance
the
get
same.
his play in tennis?
No, it was on a bike.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Once again, racing
push
drivers
bike.
should keep off of push bikes.
Yeah.
Racing drivers and motorcycle riders should keep well away from push bikes. They are not a good fix.
And it was apparently the same surgeon that did
Yeah.
Lance's operation that did Daniel's.
Oh, okay. Yes. Yeah, so you imagine he would be back for Singapore, and be interesting to see how he goes. But they certainly talk about. I mean, Christian Horner has come out and said very clearly that as he believes Daniel is hanging around, and Daniel definitely wants to get wants to be back in Formula One, and he wants that Red Bull seat, which is obviously putting some being said to put some pressure on Sergio, but Sergio's. If there's extra pressure on him, he's not handling it terribly well because he is making a few mistakes, and he's not that reliable number two. He's not finishing on a regular basis in a 1-2 position, and as a result, sort of Red Bull are still doing well and and leading the constructors' championship, but they're not dominating like you think that they should.
Yeah.
Oh God, they've scored 540 points so far this year. I mean, they haven't left a lot on the table.
Can you imagine if Sergio was really finishing second all the time? It would just be,
that's the point. It'd be well, it'd be more. Would have been over.
You massacre.
Right? Yeah, like
exactly, exactly.
But
you might as well just tell everyone else, the Red Bull to stay there. We'll just give you the money and the trophies.
Yeah, this is Red Bull is it's a substantially improved version compared to last year, and it's becoming increasingly difficult to think of a situation where Red Bull can be beaten without. I mean, we had the on-off rain over the course of the weekend, and it still wasn't enough to provide someone else an opportunity. That seems to be
the thing about that car. I mean, and Adrian knew his design and all the people who were involved in it. It doesn't seem to have there are some things you say, oh well, like we're saying about Monza will be really good for. For Williams because they're really good in a straight line, and like Mercedes will like some of the twistier circuits, or whatever way. There's circuits that suit some cars and don't suit other cars. Red Bull, they're strong everywhere. They're just from Monaco through to Monza, it doesn't really matter. They're fast.
So I guess one of the things coming up now with Monza, because of course the closest we've ever gotten to a perfect season in Formula One was McLaren in 1988, and Monza was the race that prevented the perfect season.
Yeah.
So.
Well, we'll see next. Well, that's the good thing. I mean, I do like. I mean, it's a hell of a rush, for the teams and all the rest of it. But I do like the fact that we're getting that we get sort of two races in a row, and we get them nice and close together, and I think that's
after a month off.
After a month off, and then it was a long month. I mean, let's face it. I mean,
we've got a supermoon. It's that kind of a long month.
But for someone who insists on watching it all live, you need that month off.
Brett, you were saying about Williams being good in a straight line, but Logan Sargent, I'd be, no wonder he didn't want to walk back to the pits after pranging the car again.
Well, it was It's
I mean, that sort of underlines the point, doesn't it? Like, he's great in a straight line. It's just that when Sargent gets to the corners, that there's
it's
an
not
issue.
really worked out well. In an article in Racer magazine, I think it was Chris Medlin was saying that he asked the boss at Circuit of the Americas that we've been hanging out for a an American Formula One driver, and now we've got one. Has it had what sort of effect has it had? Has it had any effect on the ticket sales or the interest in the race? And he went, no. It's just he's not winning. He's not doing well. He hasn't scored a point yet. So and there's a lot of talent out there just waiting to sort of take his place. So I think that it certainly helped that he was sort of fast tracked in because they were so desperate to get hold of an American driver. But it would be a shame. I mean, like every time they get the Great White Hope that
Scott
whether it was
Speed.
Scott
Speed, yeah.
Speed and going back to
Michael
Michael
Andretti.
Andretti, all of
Yeah.
Bobby Ray, all of those people that were there that have never quite got to that level, because like you can imagine, like in terms, especially now with all the Netflix stuff and all the newfound interest in Formula One, that would take it to the next level if you had one of their own boys out there doing well and taking it up to them foreigners.
Well, we almost had, another IndyCar driver attempt the move into Formula One. That's just in the confusion of driver contracts. That was this time last
Alex
year.
Blau, yeah, Alex. I
Yeah,
know.
that's
Oh,
it. Yeah, Alex Blau.
yeah.
Yeah, and that. And
Well, they've talked to a few people. I mean, Connor Daly, his name was put forward, and now he was struggling to
Brian
get
Herter.
a full time there. Colton Herter.
Colton Herter, yeah.
There's a few Pato O'Ward. I mean, he's not American, but I mean, it's he's obviously well known over there. So they've mentioned a few of the IndyCar guys, but Pelot sort of probably like absolutely. If he had any chance of getting into Formula One, it was obviously through McLaren, and that's out the window now. So
yeah, it is slipping away. Yeah,
you would think that, unless Andretti get the get an opportunity, a spot somewhere. Now it's interesting to see that Zandvoort have announced that they're building extra garages because they're assuming that there are going to be extra teams on the way. So that's interesting.
That's not a terrible plan.
Track like that with even more cars.
Oh, it's not like Zandvoort doesn't have. I mean, it's one of the busiest racetracks in Europe, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's also narrow in places, and more Formula One cars on that track would just create chaos.
It's so small.
That's all right.
I'm all for chaos, by the way.
Yeah.
I am all for chaos.
Maybe that's what we need.
Well, speaking of car numbers, what does everybody think about the decision that Supercars have made re the Bathurst 12 hours to let in what were called Super 3, the outdated supercars are going to be invited into the invitational class along with the marked cars and all this. I mean, we've had sort of in the past we had full fields, and it's probably an acknowledgement that they're not expecting the big numbers of international GT3 cars that perhaps they've had in the past, and that they want to sort of pad the field out a bit with more invitational cars and. Throw in a few old supercars along the way for a bit of local interest. But I'm not comfortable with it. What does everyone else think?
No, but why won't the internationals come over? I thought the Bathurst was going more reputation than free beer.
It's the cost. It's the cost of the logistics and getting everybody over, and also the fact you've got Audi have pulled out. I mean, Stefan Rattel, when he was talking about Bathurst at Spa, was saying that everybody wants to race there, but then they look at the budget and how much it's going to cost and go, we'd love to be there, but.
And finding the right spot in the calendar. I mean, having the race early in the season is helpful in that regard. I imagine if it was this time of year, you wouldn't be able to find you wouldn't be able to get international entries at all with the this. So yeah, the early season date it's as helpful as it can be. But this year was probably the first year where we've had because like last year we were still bouncing back from COVID, so so the numbers didn't have the opportunity to be as healthy as perhaps it could have been. But I mean, I understand the wanting to keep it as GT3 as possible, but by the same token, we're pushing GT4 a lot harder now. So you imagine there's going to be an influx of extra GT4 cars into the field for next year's.
Well, that I would hope. I would hope so. I mean, that would be. And we saw today, sort of, John Bowes going to join the GT4 series as well. Because, as you say, there's more and more cars coming. There's more people out there, bringing over for GT4 cars, and there's plenty available. So, and they sort of suit the thing, but like you've got all of these, these fabulous GT cars running around, whether it's GT3 or GT4, and then you've got like an 8-year-old Commodore and an old Falcon,
Brett, you remember what Bathurst was like in Group A, where we had the Nissan, the Commodores, the Falcons, and the little BMW M3, and then the Sierras. Each of the cars had a different area of the track where they were the best. The BMW M3 across the top was untouchable. The Commodores in the straight line or up the hill, that's where they got it. The Nissan, anywhere that it needed grunt out of a corner. Right? But this, mixing up the classes like this now, you're going to have the pure race cars are going to be faster across the top. Right? Other high-end cars might have a top end that's higher, so along the straight. It could be very good racing. It could also be an absolute nightmare, because if you get thumped by a race car that's designed to be a race car, you're off. You're in the fence.
Yeah, it'll be interesting.
And Jeremy, Holden would never let it run.
Well, Holden have got no say in the matter because they're not around anymore, but it's Gary Rogers is the man
General Motors. But General Motors jumped up and down because it was one of their projects.
Yeah,
well, as Jeremy pointed out, they created a Holden to run in the 24-hour years.
Yep.
So perhaps if Holden had
it was supposed to be the
about,
first of a production run from HSV, remember?
Yeah, and then they did the economics, and it just didn't stack up. I mean, they tried with the
all-wheel drive
TWR 427. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, it was very dominant.
Yeah, imagine somebody stealing one of those and going for a run down the freeway.
Yeah, it was. It was a great car. I mean, we were up there for I think it was the second 24 hour. Were you up with us, Richard, that year, or
which was that for?
The 24 hour.
2003.
No, I wasn't. No.
Yeah, there were a couple of people. We went up there like with the crew. So there were a couple of. I think Tony Alloy was up with us, and perhaps Shane. I forget who
I was
came.
there for that one.
We had a couple of people up with us, and it was great. I mean, that was sort of, as I said, that was very much, the further inspiration to go to Le Mans. I mean, because Melissa and I just were saying, my God, if this is good, imagine what Le Mans would be like. And I've, all my life I wanted to go to Le Mans, and that was the thing. Sort of the next year when she said, okay, we're going. It's like, whether you can afford it or not, we're going, and that was it. So and we went, and it was the best thing we ever did. But it was. Yeah, I mean that was the real, because you had to look at over the top of the mountain at that 2:00 in the morning and seeing and hearing all those cars go. It was incredibly spectacular, and the atmosphere was wonderful, and it was just a great meeting. It was terrific, and the problem is with the 12-hour is you only get that that running in the dark for about the first 15 to 20 minutes, and then the sun comes up really quickly, and you get sort of another 20 minutes or so of that amazing golden sunshine, where you can get the most amazing pictures, and then it sort of turns into basically a daytime race. I would rather them sort of take the Sebring 12-hour approach and sort of run it on the Saturday, start it at 10:00 and run it through until 10:00 and have the last couple of hours in darkness. I think that'd be the the better go.
Yeah.
Might be difficult to get a TV deal on under that sort of conditions.
That is always the problem. I mean, even with something like the Daytona 24 Hours, you'll see now that well, even with Le Mans, it's only comparatively recently that they've kept up the full coverage at Le Mans overnight because. I mean it can be, but there are ways around it. I mean, you don't have to light the whole track to television standards. You could certainly light some areas, and with a 24-hour race, you'd have more than enough more than enough areas to provide a decent coverage during that time of night.
Yep. And cameras have improved, so you can actually see
Yeah.
further into the dark.
Hmm.
The
Well,
bigger
yeah,
problem
yeah.
would be getting a broadcast truck to turn up and do all of that sort of stuff. Like a 24-hour run from the broadcast truck there are some logistics there that you would not believe.
Yeah, but you can get around. You can get around it. There are ways and means of getting around that. I'd love to see them do it if for a special occasion at some. I don't know, for the 20th to 25th anniversary of the 24-hour or the 24th anniversary, whatever. Some excuse to say next year's 12-hour is going to run for 24 hours. That would be fantastic.
Yeah. 60th anniversary of the Bathurst one. Oh, hang on, that's now. Oh well.
Yeah,
Damn, missed that one.
Yeah, well, that's the thing.
Yes.
You've got to have enough marshals. But I mean, that's well. I mean, I know it's Le Mans and it's very different, but they don't have there's so many people, marshalling at Le Mans. It seems that they seem to have worked that out. I mean, Christian has done it a number of times. I'm not sure exactly how long they're on a shift for, but he seems to get plenty of breaks and plenty of opportunities to get some sleep and all the rest of it. So,
well, there's a greater density of circuits in Europe, so there's a larger pool. It's not like we'll have little clusters of 3 or 4 circuits around various capital cities, and then hundreds of kilometres with just Winton and Wakefield
and they
in
certainly do
between,
treat them better
and
as
Malvern
well.
Park, and
Mhm.
so it's easier for Le Mans to do that kind of thing because they've got
Yeah,
that.
definitely.
They've got that depth.
I remember at Montlhéry, we were there at Montlhéry, and there was a huge marquee set up, and there was like a huge bar, and they were cooking seafood. And I said, oh, this is the VIP area, and they said, oh yes, this is for the marshals after the. And it's like, what? And they went, oh yeah, we must look after the marshal. Without the marshals, we do not race with you. So we're going to we have to look after them, and we say thank you, and everybody is, and the drivers come over after thank you guys for the weekend, really appreciate it, and it's like wow, it's just this is a different world. But anyway, well, we don't have. As I said, I've got to take off at silly o'clock in the morning. I've already set the alarm for 4:30, so I will. I think we might call it quits there. Now I'll just let people know that tomorrow night on In Pit Lane, 9 o'clock. If you're in Melbourne and you want to head out, if you're not marshalling or if you haven't bought tickets already or whatever, we do have a double pass to the Sandown Speed Series to give away. We gave our special guest Elliot Barber, the Trans Am driver, and Elliot talks about the Trans Am, and interesting talking about sort of the differences. He's driven a lot of cars over the years, the Utes. He's driven a supercar. He's driven all sorts of things over the years. It's interesting his feedback about the Trans Am and how much he's enjoying those TA2 cars and the great racing they're putting on. So that's on there. We've also got live music. As I said, back in the studio, we've got live music from our guests Mick and I. So that's tomorrow night at 9 o'clock on Channel 31, and then on demand at 9:30 on the In Pit Lane YouTube channel, which is one of the reasons I can't go to bed yet, because I'm going to spend the next hour uploading that and making sure that's all working. So anyway, thank you a lot. Thanks to everybody. Yes, thanks Mark. Thanks
Thank
to
you.
Box.
You.
Thanks to Van Dragon. Thanks to Jeremy. Thanks to everybody. Thank you, linesman. Thank you, ball boys. We will see you. We will see you very soon. Until we see you next week, or we'll see you tomorrow on In Pit Lane. Thanks a lot for joining us, everybody. Bye for now.
Goodbye. See ya.